wear your mask, and maintain physical distancing. Those are the two most common precautionary measures we should take in order to lower our chances in contracting the coronavirus. As the whole world came into a sudden halt and efforts became focused on fighting the pandemic, another one broke. With this one, preventive measures didn't work. Communication has been profoundly compromised amid the pandemic. Today, I'll be classifying the communicative ramifications that have been materializing, and thereafter, I'll be recommending a transcendent remedy. The communicative ramifications can be classified into three main aspects. One, inequitable and confrontational narrative by creating negative rhetoric, undertones, and character assassination, primarily based on age segmentation, ethnic discrimination, and confrontational context. At one end of the age segmentation spectrum, as the pandemic started to further propagate, several data sets revealed that the elderly are arguably more prone to mortality. Meanwhile, at the other end of the same spectrum, a label surfaced and was tagged to children, super spreaders. Such discourse showcased unequal valuation of lives and augmented a sense of anxiety. Another unlawful rhetoric would be that of an ethnic hate speech, which has stigmatized an entire country and/or population for the pandemic's outbreak, such as the Asian or the Chinese virus. Similarly, confrontational context by incorporating hostile frameworks, metaphors, and wordings like conquering, combating, and biological warfare were all used to fight the pandemic. Inequitable and confrontational narrative only serve to add to people's worries by obstructing any individual and communal initiative in offsetting the pandemic, as people became hesitant to disclose the contraction of the virus. Two, ambiguity and false promises. Data concerning the pandemic keep on surfacing in an ambiguous manner. It is important to balance between communicating the potential risks as they are and simultaneously offer practical means to alleviate them. It has been clear by now that the virus won't vanish by tomorrow, yet it won't last forever. Therefore, communication should always propose hope rather than unrealistic expectation or false promises. 3, impractical best practices. Communicating preventive measures has elevated several anxieties, as some of these measures are unattainable privileges. According to the UN's Sustainable Development Goal, SDG number 6, clean water and sanitation. Water scarcity could displace 700 million people by 2030. In parallel, 3 billion people lack basic hand-washing facilities, which is the most effective prevention method in order to fight the virus. Similarly, another preventive measure is physical distancing. Being at social gatherings, practicing religious beliefs, exercising, going to work, or simply visiting family members and parents, all have been suspended due to the pandemic. When it comes to underserved individuals and communities, even the simplest form of physical distancing isn't fully attainable. Therefore, the ongoing narrative is clearly not taking into account existing inequalities. Who would have thought that at the time we need each other the most, our words would only set us apart? Today, more than ever, we need to initiate conversations and share experiences that unite us. Accordingly, I want to share with you a transcendent remedy. What we need is a tool as old as humanity itself: storytelling. It's not about fairy tales and myth. It's about connecting humanely with each other. Hence, I prefer to coin and share it as story sharing rather than storytelling. Why? Story sharing has an intrinsic value as it transcends the average entertainment and liberal arts dimension. It involves the profound comprehension of humans' thought processes, emotions, and actions. Who is the greatest story sharer of all time? We are. Each one of us is by nature. It's in our DNA. From where do we derive content? Content originates from within. How to apply this remedy? 1. Rationalize the experience. When things are left unspoken, people are likely to convey all sorts of misconceptions about certain experiences, and even might be labeled as a taboo, such as contracting the coronavirus. In order to rationalize this experience, we need to share our personal encounter. Many will find comfort knowing that others have faced a similar situation and have sought support when they've needed. 2. Narrate, mitigate, and liberate. Naturally, we feel daunted talking about our traumatic experiences, and the more we resist sharing them, the more burnout our psyche becomes. Sharing them for the first time will trigger unpleasant emotional and physical reactions. However, the recurrent story sharing of our traumatic experiences in a candid manner will make us feel less detained. Once narrated, we start to observe its various features, such as the beginning, the ending, the timing, and the setting. They become more tangible and clearer. Narration will aid in analyzing the events that have accumulated and the reactions that have emerged in the aftermath. Hence, it mitigates the intensity initially it had, and ideally replaces it with a feeling of liberation. Ultimately, story sharing is fundamental in preserving a collective memory as an integral component for identity building. 3. Transform the meaning from less to full. Acknowledge and eventually make sense of the experience by transforming it from a meaningless into a meaningful one. So, to contextualize, when communicating the pandemic, story sharing needs to take into account social, economic, and cultural concerns. It requires a multidisciplinary approach in order to refine a public discourse and optimally aims towards advocacy. When it comes to communication, and particularly story sharing, I personally resort to what I like to call as USE, unique sharing experience. How? By embracing a mix of rhetorical appeals: logos, pathos, and ethos. In other words, I choose to juggle between logical reasoning and scientific data, emotions, and ethics, all in order to convey a humane and methodical message. Then I recommend an attainable communal call to action, always bearing in mind self-awareness, which is the nucleus of an ethical story sharing. Story sharing has made my content and any endeavor that I pursue more resonant and transcendent by sparking a generational connection. Ultimately, story sharing has enabled me to provide access to information to people by transforming knowledge and experience in order for them to make responsible decisions. Second, it granted me the opportunity in helping others to fulfill their human potential. And third, it empowered me to contribute to the overall societal well-being. As we speak, keep in mind that your survival rate is a perfect 100%. Meanwhile, let's honor those who are gone but not forgotten, due to a pandemic or not. Keep in mind and take a minute and think about all the stories that are being generated around you to be shared later on. Don't suppress your attitudes, values, and ideas. Let adversity ignite your motivation. Draft each chapter as you go and live your story to the fullest. What's your story? I've shared mine. Tell us, share more. This is the power of story sharing. Thank you.